Hi, welcome. This is News and Views, and I'm Suzanne Dowdy.
And I'm Sandee, Bengochea.
And I was just about to say to Sandee before we got the countdown, you know, every year I keep telling those I live with, let's just keep the Christmas tree up, put a big bag or some kind of cloth over it because it'll soon be here again.
Because it's soon be here.
Holy Week is here.
It's amazing.
You know, I mean, Lent just started. We just made all our resolutions, what we're going to do for Lent. And I mean, a lot has happened in it, but still, it just seems like...
It just seems, and well, I've had my own little bit of Lent with my father, not been well and so, but you know something? Every single day while I visited him at the hospital, he was on Channel 10, and even when he couldn't speak, his eyes were on Channel 10. So I know his eyes are on Channel 10 now, so hi, Daddy.
Too sweet.
It's so good that he's out of the hospital, and he's, you know, and for all those other people who are shut-ins, you know, it's only when it happens to you, you realize that there's so many people who can't move around as they want, and to be able to be inspired and to look at all these fantastic programs and to really, you know, engage in working on their spirituality while they're in bed.
That's right.
You know,
that's
it's
right.
Really a beautiful
And it's
thing.
not only those who are very sick or terminally ill or can never move again or walk around. It's those who simply, well, not simply, but somebody who's broken an arm or a leg or whatever it may be, who, you know, write in or call us and say, you know, I had to be at home for 2 or 3 weeks, and Trinity TV was just my life because I could attend Mass on the, or follow the Mass at any rate on TV. I could hear all that's happening. I so felt part of the church.
And you know, even beyond that, Suzanne, I find like some time ago, I just had the TV on and I was getting dressed. And I was listening at the back of my head, you know, something you just have it on. And then it had to be Winston Garcia. It had to be Winston Garcia. He was on. And I remember I just sat down on my bed for like about half an hour afterwards because it was so inspiring and it was so beautiful. And it was like a special moment at that time that I suppose God wanted to speak to me at that time. And it was really beautiful. So, you know, those of you who are tuned in this morning, it's really lovely to be a part of your life.
Know that we are here for you, yes. Well, the Catholic news is for this Sunday, the 25th of March, which is, in our Catholic tradition, Palm Sunday. So there's a photograph here of previous Palm Sunday procession, and this is what we're going to be seeing all over Trinidad on this Sunday. Christian churches in the capital will host their annual Palm Sunday ecumenical walk today from 1 p.m. The theme is See Light and Be Light. The public witness begins at the St. Anne's Church of Scotland, which is on the corner of Oxford and Charlotte Streets. The procession will then visit the Salvation Army Hall, Rose Hill Moravian Church, Hanover Methodist Church, St. John's Baptist Church, Holy Trinity Cathedral, and ending at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception. Cathedral Administrator Monsignor Christian Pereira and his fellow church leaders are inviting all Christian faithful in Port of Spain and environs to participate. So, and this photograph was taken at last year's walk. So this is an ecumenical walk where all the Christian churches are getting together to do that and to be a witness.
That's so beautiful. It's so beautiful when we come together as a people. You know,
and of course, in the various Catholic churches and parishes, everybody will be doing their thing at different times in whatever parish you belong to.
And it's such a special time, you know, with the, and it's the beginning. And I was reading here at the front page as well, Father Robert Christo's, the Vicar for Communications, article here. And he was saying that the Good Friday Sunday procession and Good Friday walk should not be treated like a parade, but rather a procession with a destiny.
Amen.
You know, and it's so true because it's the whole journey starts then. You know, Father Christo explained that the liturgies and ritual enactments commence from Palm Sunday, the start of Holy Week, where Christians commemorate Christ's entry into Jerusalem for the completion of the Paschal mystery. And it's the whole journey is so important.
Beautiful,
As we proceed, we must stay focused and know that we are moving towards a definite goal. Let us not people who walk in a parade to be seen, but walking towards a destiny, a life ahead, or a new resurrected life of promise.
And that's what, you know, it's so true what he said there, if you really stop and listen, that you know, it is not a parade. It's not just about, okay, I have to do this and I'm waving some palm branches. We should be reflecting on the first Palm Sunday procession, so to speak, when Jesus was welcomed into Jerusalem with people waving palm branches. That should be foremost in our mind and our thoughts.
And you know, when you actually get involved in rather than just reading about it, but when you actually, if you're able to get involved in actually the Good Friday, the Palm Sunday walk and the celebratory waving of the palms, and then you journey towards the Holy Thursday, where you sit and have, you know, the Paschal meal. And then the Good Friday morning, if you're able to do that, you really, you know, just reliving it is such a beautiful thing. By the time you get to Easter Sunday,
you can really experience the resurrection.
And really getting your body involved in it as well. It's always
body, mind, and spirit.
Body, mind, and spirit involved in it. It's such a beautiful thing, rather than just reading it. And he talks about, from his experience, Father Christo, from his experience overseas, he sees Holy Week often becoming a bit commercialized and traditions forgotten. In Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean, however, the essence of Holy Week is deeply engaging and great opportunities.
We have to thank God for that.
And the cultures, many of the rituals are kept alive and relevant by incorporating some theodrama into the liturgy, and immediately I can think of the Good Friday Boboli, which is a part of the traditions in Trinidad, using drama. And then we have in St. Joseph Maracas, well, you know, Father Gerard is
Tangchun,
yes. And to actually experience that Good Friday walk there, it's, you know, if you're one who likes the dramatic enactment of it, and then there's also a fantastic walk up Mount St. Benedict by St. John's Parish as well, you know. And then at my St. Joseph Church, we do just a quiet. So if you want a more quiet walk,
you can choose from so many.
And so many different times. When I do the Mount St. Benedict, you go up. You have to be up at 4 o'clock and caffeinated and at the bottom of the hill, you know, to do it. And it's amazing how many people are there. It is amazing, from children to the elderly, and so. And it's a very slow walk, of course. And, you know, they start with the rosary, and then at the bottom of the hill, we start doing these stations. You know, and it's really beautiful to experience it. At the end of it, you get a sense, you know, it really does something to you. It does something to your very body.
It does, Well, that article continues on page 3, where he's saying that, however, amidst the theatrical elements, he stressed the importance of Catholics knowing the underlying catechesis and theology so that the rituals do not become meaningless. And he went on to point out, and in it, giving a little teaching, and this was on the program Breakfast with the Deacons. He says that, pointed out that the Triduum is one celebration which should not be broken nor be treated as separate events. You can't miss any of the solemnities. The Easter Triduum begins with the evening Mass of the Lord's Supper on Holy Thursday, reaches its high point in the Easter Vigil on Saturday night, and closes with evening prayer on Easter Sunday. So all of it is so important. One flows into the other. And the church celebrates the Easter season or Eastertide from the Sunday of the Resurrection to Pentecost Sunday, where the first 8 days of Easter or Easter octave are celebrated as solemnities.
And you know, it's so important, I think, in our homes for us to continue the traditions in our home. I remember, you know, when our children were younger, my husband, he would actually wash their feet on Holy Thursday night, and you'd put them all to sit down at home. And then we would actually enact the Last Supper at the table. And we would do the entire thing. And
I wonder how many families do that.
And up to now, we do it, you know.
That's amazing.
Up to now, we do it. And it's really beautiful because, like, right now, my daughter, who is away, she says, "Mommy, just remind me what the meals are and what you do," you know, because it's just she and her husband, but already
she wants to
they want to start the tradition. And I think it's so important. The whole Good Friday, the Holy Thursday, they all look forward to very much. And
that's great.
And I think if in families we could do it, you know, the small church, if we could do it in the small church, it's so beautiful for the children, because that's how traditions go on, not so much from reading about it, but from the stories of our own lives.
Actually reenacting it.
And the activities.
As we move on here, I just want to remind people, or maybe let you know for the first time, that we've always had that program, Breakfast with the Deacons, and this is where Father Robert Christo was speaking. But to let you know that this cable television program is now a collaborative production between Trinity Communications Network and CAMCEL, which is Catholic Media Services Limited. So where before we used to, do that here, it's still filmed there, but now we're doing it, as a collaboration between Trinity TV and CAMCEL, which is great. So they do a lot of the production and come up with the themes, and of course, Reverend Derek Walcott is still very much part of that, So we move on to our editorial, and the headline, Hoping in the Darkness. And let's stress on the hope and not the darkness. And the editor, once again outlines a lot of what people know, what people are feeling, and so in the country. The editor says, the country is going through its own passion at this time. Many are saying, like Jesus, my soul is sorrowful unto death. And the editor lists again, the fact that the government seems to be losing the war on crime, in the domestic scene, the children that are being abused, the various murders, all kinds of things, what's happening in the judiciary, etc. But the editor goes on now, having, reminded us of what is in the darkness, of what now we can hope for. In the midst of such darkness, we cling tenaciously to hope. Hope is not found in the big places, among the bright lights. Hope inhabits the dark, and in that darkness are found little people doing great things, ministering to children with disabilities, developing local rural economies, shunning the bribes and kickbacks, creating beautiful music and art, people working for people and not for titles. It is found in a lonesome man from a poor village, abandoned by his friends, carrying a cross with the hope that there is something beyond that haunted hill strewn with skulls, because his God told him so. His God told him people matter. And I'll just stop there now, so we could just kind of talk. Isn't that beautiful? So well written. Yes. And once again, putting that mirror up to our faces as a country, that yes, there is so much that's going on that we can call in darkness, but yet we still have that hope. And I love the way that they bring that image of Jesus there, that lonesome man from a poor village, abandoned by his friends. And if you don't say the name Jesus, and you just think of it, who is this man?
Yes.
And you have to remind yourself, yep, that's who Jesus was. Abandoned by his friends, carrying a cross. He suffered. He suffered in his humanity. And we have to remember that.
And I think, it's so important that we remember that. And it's so important for us to become depressed, to not become depressed and taken over by the darkness. But just to remember, there's that one little candle. And if you could just light that one little candle
in the darkness,
yes, if just like every encounter you have with someone, just let it be a positive encounter. Just remember.
Because it's so easy to stress on the darkness. Yes, we know what's happening in the area of crime and everything else, but, and yes, you talk about it. You can't hide your head in the sand, but don't stress, don't keep talking about it over and over again in every little group, everywhere you go.
I suppose you have to let your own little light shine through.
Yes,
that Jesus in you, that Jesus person in you has to shine through, and you have to carry him with you.
That's
and let him be there wherever you are. And sometimes it is very challenging to do so, but I suppose it was very challenging to carry that cross as well.
That's right. But Jesus did it knowing that there was something at the end of that was worth much more. The editor encourages us, one way to move beyond our social and political inertia is to believe that people matter. But the culture tells us instead, mired as it is in materialism, that things matter: money, power, prestige, titles, exemptions. And I think both Archbishop Jason in his Lenten retreat and Father John Prasad, who is preaching the lunchtime Lenten retreat here this week, they both stress that too. reminding us that the world is going to, you know, lead us to a place where material things matter, continues to try to lead us there.
And he talks about the 5 topics: the parish, family life, clergy, vocations, and leadership in church and society. And I think a big stress has to be in the leadership and Catholic education. The leadership as well, you know, if the leadership is thinking about money and power and prestige and title, and so, you know, if they are thinking about that, well, then that's where the populace will be guided. And so I think the lights, when we have persons like Archbishop Gordon, when we have our new president, and so people whose focus really is on the light, and you know, and I think
it gives us a lot of hope.
It gives us hope. It really does give us hope in that way, because sometimes, you know, in the country, we have to worry about our leaders, our business leaders, our, you know, community leaders, and all the political leaders, and so, and you wonder, you know, where is their focus and what do they really cherish? You know, what do they hold up, and so, and if you can't see anything else but money, prestige, power, you know, throwing words at each other, and so
it's very easy to feel hopeless.
It's very easy to feel hopeless, and what are we teaching our children? That's always my big concern. What are we teaching our children? I remember when I went to secondary school, you know, we would use the Parliament as when we were teaching debates, and so we would use what was happening in Parliament, and you know, we would kind of try to emulate that and the discussions, and so, and really it was a grand thing, and now you have to keep it away from the children. You know, you can't let them hear what's happening in Parliament. You can't let them hear those things. You know, that kind of guttural, that kind of language, you know, you have to be so, and I think we need to challenge our leaders to another way, definitely.
To lift their vision higher and to come up
and to understand why, a wider perspective, a wider audience as to what is leadership, what does leadership mean, and what are the and what are the consequences of poor leadership, because I think what we're seeing now is the consequences of poor leadership. You know, if the leaders in education and in all these other areas here, if they were people of substance, people who were really guided by God, you know, I think we would be seeing a different kind of society right now.
Well, we have 2 letters to the editor here, and certainly I think these are leading us into the light for sure. And one person, Suzanne Henry, has taken the time to write a letter about a very positive experience that she had in the midst of, you know, an experience that could have been somewhat, you know, leading her into the darkness. She says, I would like to thank publicly Corporal Joseph of the CID St. James Police Station for the protective service he unreservedly rendered in coming to my assistance on the 15th of March. She says her car had overheated, and I had pulled to the side of the road and was looking under the bonnet to see if I could rectify the situation. A few minutes later, Corporal Joseph, driving down the same road, noticed my dilemma and pulled over in his vehicle behind mine and came to offer assistance. Recognizing that it was unsafe for me to drive any further, he immediately rang for a wrecker service to come and lift my car off the road. I had 3 passengers with me, relatives from abroad, and considering the situation in Trinidad and Tobago these days, we would have been sitting ducks for anyone who might seek to take advantage of us. The wrecker took about a half hour to arrive, and all that time Corporal Joseph remained in his car behind mine, ensuring no doubt that we would be safe. It was only when my car was safely on the flatbed of the wrecker that the good corporal drove off. He certainly embodied the motto of the police service, to protect and serve. You can imagine how grateful and impressed my relatives from abroad and I were at this excellent police service. Thank you, Corporal Joseph. May God bless you for your service and kindness. Now, that's a light in the darkness.
That's beautiful.
You know, we tend to put everybody into one category, and the police are not doing this and that, but you know, there's so many good people in every area.
And we fail to sometimes recognize, and I think for Suzanne to make the
time,
effort, because usually it's when there's a negative we shout out
and write a letter about that.
And but to write a letter about a positive, and hopefully it inspires other persons in the security service, you know, to do.
And the second letter there, maybe Sandee, you could take a little read of that.
Yeah.
And then we'll go to our first break.
Commission for Social Justice extend our heartfelt congratulations to Madam Justice Paula May Weeks on her inauguration as the 6th President of the Republic. We take this opportunity to celebrate Madam Justice's appointment as the first woman to be elected to this country's highest office. Pope Francis speaks constantly of the need to promote the feminine genius in our world. No wonder we love him so much. The talents, gifts, visions that she brings to the table will certainly stand her in good stead in discharging the important and responsible duties of her position. It is noteworthy that she was inaugurated on March 19th, the feast of St. Joseph, spouse of the Blessed Virgin Mary and foster father of Jesus. St. Joseph, who was a compassionate, caring man, is the patron saint of working people. And as workers, we all share in the dignity of work.
And this is written by Leela Ramdeen, chair of the Catholic Commission for Social Justice. And she goes on there. The article is a little bit longer, too much for us to read right now, but very interesting and very good of her too to come out and support our new president.
And support her, in a time of support, because she says the CCSJ members wish her every success and remain at her service to work with her decisively in the spirit of solidarity to build the common good and to create conditions in which all our people can flourish. And the thing about it is, there's always a wave of hope in all the despair.
That's right. In all the darkness, there's that light flowing in.
You can't help but when you listen to her speech.
Yes, and there's some comments on it.
Yes, when you listen to her speech,
you felt that sense of hope.
That hope.
Yes,
you did feel that.
Everybody has said so across the board. But it's time for us, past time, I think, to take our first break. And this is a reflection on Martin Luther King's assassination, which should be interesting. When we come back, please, we hope that you'll be waiting there for us. Don't go away, because we still have quite a lot of time on the program.
We are convinced that our cause is right.
We have the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Martin Luther King.
April 4th, 1968.
I would call him a martyr for justice, a martyr for faith, and a great example for people of faith, regardless of your religious tradition.
We are moving into a bright day of freedom.
We all remember where we were that day. I was 15 years old. I guess I cried on the playground at St. Benedict the Moor. I know I stopped playing softball. There was a sense of despair. There was a great sense of loss.
I felt the loss because I had looked up to him. I had watched him give those speeches. One of the things that a man not be judged by the color of his skin, but by the content of his character, that held very true with me. And the fact that he was nonviolent and for peace, and he wanted things better for all people.
On the following day, when the riots started, I was at my job in downtown Washington, and the city just exploded. You could look out the window, see fires, you could see cars being trampled. It was terrifying. And fortunately, my current husband some way found his way in downtown D.C. to bring me home because all of the buses had stopped running.
And my great memory of that day was going out with my father to serve people in a riot-torn city. We had to go with him, but we went around the city and we carried food and went out to greet people. And my father was a servant of the Lord, and he just showed me how to do that. And I'm just trying to live the life that my father taught me, that his father taught him. And I see that as an extension of what the Heavenly Father taught us all to do by sending His Son to be with us.
Amen. The man of 50 years ago is a man that was very comfortable being a pastor at a small Baptist church in the South, not thinking that he was going to be first a national and then an international icon. He saw people suffer unjustly, and he lived to make those people's lives better. So it's great that he was engaged in the civil rights movement here and the struggle for voting rights. It's great to remember that he stood for and with poor white people in Appalachia, saying that they deserved a better education, they deserved to live out the American dream. It was great that he was concerned about the Vietnamese and the way that they suffered in the Vietnam War. It was great that he stood with the sanitation workers in Memphis, Tennessee, because they deserved to have a life that was full of justice. And that's something for all of us to emulate. It doesn't matter where they're from. It doesn't matter what their race is. It just matters that they're not given the opportunity to live out their God-given call to use their gifts to make their lives better and to make the world better. Dr. King worked to get everybody that opportunity, and he risked his life every day when he went out because people mattered, and he just loved them. And that sense of value, that sense of community, is an integral part of who I am and why I'm a deacon and why I feel called to serve in the church. And why my thought is, how can I rebuild the neighborhood? How can I recreate the kingdom in the place that formed me? That's my life's work.
Isn't that beautiful? How can I recreate the kingdom? You know, and that's what we should all be striving to do.
I know Martin Luther, his very last speech before he was assassinated, he said, I have been to the mountaintop, I have seen the promised land. And, you know, his life teaches us, I think, because I know we have a nonviolence series going on right now, it teaches us that to be nonviolent doesn't mean to be a weakling and to be, but you have to stand up in the face of injustice and you have to really let your voice be heard. And I think that is the real challenge of nonviolence because it's easy, you know, some of us think it's like Jainism where you just stay very quiet and you just do some om and you just stay out of it and that's really not what it is. It's to actually let your voices be heard and to stand up, and a lot of those people
for truth and justice and what is right.
To find the strength to stand up for peace and justice. And I think that was Martin Luther King's big message.
Amen.
Really. You know?
It was interesting that I heard that very sentence here that the editor wrote, that one way to, well, not this, but to believe that people matter, and I'll just read that sentence again from the editorial. One way to move beyond our social and political inertia is to believe that people matter. And those words just repeated there in that reflection on Martin Luther King's life. So that is certainly something that we are all called to do, you know?
You know, and it doesn't... the thing about it is that it doesn't call for you to be a perfect human being, because for those of us who have studied the lives of Gandhi, of Martin Luther King, and so it was all, they weren't, that was the life of Jesus, you know, and you're not studying the life of Jesus, you're not studying the life of a saint, but certainly there was something in these people that said, you know, that we're going to stand up in the face of justice, and sometimes...
And they changed history.
Yeah, and they did change history, and I think sometimes we say, well, you know, we are not good enough, and my life is, and the things I've done, and so...
And we let that keep us back.
And we let it keep us back. But when you study the lives of these people, they're really, you know...
And that's why it's so important to read the lives of saints and people like this, so to know that, yes, they were human.
Yeah,
you know?
and it's about a
But they
collective...
excelled in an extraordinary way.
And I think we have to kind of create a collective consciousness of that we are going to work for peace in this country, no matter where, and whatever opportunity we have, or we're going to have to do it somehow.
But we've reached the halfway mark, so we're going to open up the telephone lines and invite you, the caller, the viewer, to call in. We would love to hear from you. Last week we had lots of phone calls.
And it was exciting.
Yes. So we hope we can have that going again this week. On page 3, well, we know now that at last the long-awaited papal nuncio is in Trinidad, thank God. And straight from the airport, he went to the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception. He was warmly received last Monday when he was introduced at that Mass to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Episcopal ordination of the late Archbishop Anthony Pantin. He was smiling as he delivered remarks to the congregation, and he said he came with the love of God and as the voice of the Roman Pontiff, and he would continue building bridges as Pope Francis is doing. He first thanked Archbishop Jason Gordon for the opportunity to greet the people of God, and he said to him, I salute you and I salute the entire clergy of this archdiocese. I wish also to salute your predecessor who is here with us, Bishop Joseph Harris, and he said, Happy Feast Day, Excellency. I also salute His Excellency, Bishop Malcolm. So even though having just come from the airport, come to this country for the first time, he was right on. He knew
his what he had.
That's right. That's right. Just a little bit more. He was supposed to arrive in Trinidad and Tobago on the Sunday, but due to a delay with a connecting flight, he arrived on the Monday. Taking it all in stride, he noted his arrival on the feast day of St. Joseph and the celebration of the late Archbishop Pantin. And he said that something was in the God had organized that. He realized that. And we have a call. So we're going to stop there and take that call. Welcome.
Hi, good morning, Suzanne. Good morning, Sandee.
Good morning.
And good morning to the beautiful people of Trinidad and Tobago.
Thank you. Great.
Well, I'm just calling to share some wonderful information with you. I would like to tell you about a wonderful art exhibition that is taking place on Sunday, Palm Sunday. It's called The Revelation of Jesus Christ, True God and True Man. It will be from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. and it is a one-day show only. It will be at the Art Society of Trinidad and Tobago at the corner of Jamaica Boulevard and St. Vincent Avenue, Federation Park, Sinclair.
Okay.
So I would like to invite...
And you are the artist?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
And my name is Kathy Ann Mackay.
I think further on in the Catholic News, we do have some information about that.
That's correct, yes. It was advertised in the Catholic News.
Yes. I was just
Would you like to know more about this?
Yes.
Yes. Tell us a little bit.
Well, the reason why it's called The Revelation of Jesus Christ, True God and True Man is because I think many people really do not understand the true nature and character of God. And like in the world today, like many people regard him as judgmental, hateful, even unjust. But the purpose of this exhibition is to tell the world and the people, especially of this country, the truth about who God is, who Jesus Christ is, that he's the opposite of all those things, that he's loving, he's kind, he's merciful, he's generous, and he hates injustice. And he's a holy God. And if I could get this message across, then I would have fulfilled my mission for the exhibition.
So that you've expressed that in your works. This exhibition.
This is conveyed in the work. And actually, it's not only that, it's also about prophetic word for this nation. And this prophetic word has been coming for many, many years. And I would just like to invite all to come and to see what God is saying about this nation, that he has called us and he has chosen us. And this is the time he wants us. It is almost as if the Lord is saying, Jerusalem, arise, the army of God's people. It is time for us to get up now and do as God is asking us to do through the power of his Holy Spirit.
Okay, so just repeat for us again the day, the time, the place.
Sure. Again, the name of the exhibition is Revelation of Jesus Christ, True God and True Man. It will take place on this Sunday, Palm Sunday, the 25th of March, 2018. The time is 10 a.m. until 8 p.m. It's long hours, so it gives everybody the opportunity to choose the time during the day. I know it's Palm Sunday, so it will be busy. It's a one-day show only. The venue is the Art Society of Trinidad and Tobago, the corner of Jamaica Boulevard and St. Vincent Avenue, Federation Park, St. Clair, Port of Spain.
Okay, great. All right, thank you very much for calling in. So I hope that many people will go and maybe use that day as a kind of a retreat day, to go and meditate on those paintings. Thank you. I was just saying, repeating some of the words that the nuncio said that day at the cathedral. He said that so many things are coming together, and I'm glad, therefore, to be here among you. So he was seeing the fact that his flight was delayed, that he came on the same day of the special mass for the Archbishop Anthony Pantin, and that it was St. Joseph's Day. He saw that as something special. He says that the apostolic nuncio is only a voice speaking about himself. I am the voice of the Roman Pontiff, of the Holy Father, and as a voice of the Roman Pontiff, my function is also pontifical. So, helping people to understand, what his role is in the church here. He said that his role, like Pope Francis, therefore, is building bridges between the various churches in the world, building bridges of peace between peoples in the world, building bridges of understanding and agreements all across the globe. And he ended, as everyone was applauding, he said, I rejoiced when I heard them say, let us go to Trinidad and Tobago. So he sounds like, you remember, very fondly, of course, the person who held that last role, Archbishop Nicola Girasoli, who was a ball of fire, and this nuncio sounds like he has a personality of his own and seems to be just full of joy. So we look forward to seeing him and having him celebrate Mass somewhere in the country soon.
And you know, our Archbishop, Archbishop Gordon, also, he continued, and in the article on page 6, he says...
with a photograph.
Yes, with a lovely photograph there. Yeah. He said Archbishop Panton showed humility in his dealings with all strata of society. He said Pope Francis's decision to do away with the trappings of his papacy, walk among the people, and other actions made him unpredictable for some. But Archbishop Gordon said it occurred to him, we had an archbishop just like that. All the things you see in Pope Francis is doing were things Tony Panton was doing many years before. It was like they were cut from the same cloth. And it's so true, you know. He would arrive in his little car and all over the place. Archbishop Panton was a father figure to many of the priests he ordained, always available with words of wisdom and compassion. His marks of sanctity were varied, and he was a different kind of bishop.
And the Archbishop Gordon goes on in the article to say, or to appeal to us, that all must reflect on the foundation laid by the late Archbishop and build on it. Strive to do all that he tried to do, which was to bring the gospel to people, not just by his preaching, but through his life.
And you know, he says, Archbishop Gordon says, Archbishop Panton took over as leader of the church in Trinidad and Tobago at a turbulent time. Yet he negotiated it with incredible clarity, calm. And it sounds very much like what Archbishop Gordon is encountering right now. Because so his challenge there is quite similar, I think, because we are in very turbulent times right now.
Well, I think we have a couple video productions we'd like, clips we'd like to share with you. And I'm looking at the clock, but we've had one phone call, so come, let's keep it going. So we'll go to a break just for a couple minutes, and when we come back, let's remember the telephone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you.
I hope that young people can be given a chance to change society, because I think we have so much potential. I think that if we're given a chance to most especially lead, but also not just alone, but with the help of the older people in the church and with the support of the older people, they should support the vision of young people, because I believe that we are the future. We have to start now, but we cannot just do it on our own. We need support from people who have been there before and who can give us direction where to go.
Pope Francis met March 19th with young people helping the Church to prepare for October's World Synod of Bishops on Youths and Vocational Discernment. 2 young Africans spoke to Catholic News Service about the challenges their countries face and about their hopes for the upcoming Synod.
I hope that not just the Church, but even the world at large, not just in Africa, not just in Nigeria, in the whole world, they see reason for allowing youth to be heard. We have so many things bothering us. We have so many things in our hearts. We want to express, we want to say. And sometimes when you don't allow us to say these things, it's like a volcano. And when it gets so big, it just springs up and it booms. So if you allow us to express ourselves, so we would have less violence, we have more of peace in our society, in our world, and of course in the various parts of the world where youths are being exploited and being used for various forms of violence, those things will reduce, those things will stop.
Those who frequent prostitutes are criminals. But Father, am I not allowed to make love? No, this is not making love. This is torturing a woman.
Human trafficking is a hidden crime. It's not talked about so much. So when the Pope proposed that it should be talked about, I was so happy, because working with this, we need so much support, you know. So I encourage young people to also do something about this, because it is a global issue. It is happening everywhere.
Once again, this Holy Father is not afraid to say what he has to say, because he's feeling the pain of the people, and so beautiful. Now, I'm sure that this next article is going to spark at least 2 or 3 phone calls, and this is about our new president, the inauguration of our new president, Paula May Weeks, on Monday. And we're going to read a little bit of what Archbishop Charles Jason Gordon had to say after the inauguration. But I'm sure that many of you out there have some good feelings about the inauguration, what you heard in her speech, and we would love to hear from you.
Because there was so much talk about her speech afterwards, and we really love to hear some
what other
of these
people,
views.
Yes. So we'll read a little bit of what Archbishop Gordon had to say, and you pick up your phone and give us a call. Archbishop Gordon said that to him, she has inspired the nation with her inaugural address. She hit every right note. She inspired the nation to action and to plan for a future to be different from the present, to work tirelessly towards a future that is good, he said. And Anglican Bishop Claude Barkley told the Catholic News that the occasion was a heart-stopping moment and a moment of great joy and great pride for him to see someone who was very active in his church becoming president. He further stated that it was a good example for all the young students who were looking on and now have something to work towards. They praised, of course, her spiritual personality, the decisions and perspectives in life. He attributed it to her formation because, of course, she held a high position in the Anglican Church, and that the moment had arrived and that she possessed something of that common touch that would make her tenure meaningful. And of course, for those of you who listened to the inauguration speech, some of it is recorded here. In her address as President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Trinidad and Tobago, President Weeks called on the nation to remember that it is a tenet of all religions that light triumphs over darkness, and called therefore on all to search for the light, be the light, and see the light. Having discovered that it falls to each president to describe, within limits, his or her own role, she said she has identified her role as humble first servant with a mandate to render service with enthusiasm, and therefore she will work to be the light, shining in the darkness as well. I mean, coming from, the president of Trinidad and Tobago, these are very, very hopeful words.
And it seems to have been the word that was ever present in her speech.
Yes, this light over darkness.
This light over darkness. She called on all to be inspired and look for points of light in the good things happening in the nation. To fear not, for the light is always present. Every day we can find shining examples of all that is good about us. Search them out. And however, she continued using imagery of light. She said it is best seen in the dark, and it is always the darkest just before dawn. And I don't think it could get much darker here. So the challenge is to be the light and see the light, and to trust in time, that in time we will reap the benefits. And she used numerous references to scripture as she spoke. She said we must not underestimate the value of songs like God Bless Our Nation, and that in addition to having strength, being people of faith and prayer, we must be people of action, since faith without action is useless. And I think that's so important that so many
we remember that all the time. She also noted that we all have to choose between being overwhelmed by despair and mobilizing forces and resources to step out boldly. She announced that she too has experienced poor services and has been the victim of crime, assuring, and she says, I know the state of the state. And further on in the article, she talked about the fact, I was looking for it here, but I think she had her car stolen twice.
It's not in this article, but her car was stolen twice, so therefore I have something in common with the president. My car was also stolen twice. And I think we've all been victims in one way or the other.
Crime of some kind. And I think she wants to get that message out, to the nation, that she's somebody who has lived among the people. She knows what it's like to be sort of at this end, and at this level, and now she's taking all of that with her to her role as president of Trinidad and Tobago.
The deputy political leader of the UNC, Dr. Lee, he said electing a female president augurs well for gender equality in Trinidad and Tobago. We also have a female speaker in the House. We have a female president of the Senate, the head of the opposition, 4 key holders in our country, all held by females. So I guess, you know, the challenge, you know, I would like to say the good news, but I think I would prefer to say the challenge is with the women in those 4 key rules to make a difference. Now,
make a difference.
Yeah, because you know it's what we fought for, it's what we asked for, it's what we keep saying we want, and now we have 4 persons there.
We have to pray for them to do a good job.
We have to pray for them that they will excel in some way.
Well, our brother Vernon Callaway was also highlighted this in his article on page 17. He says that President Weeks, in his estimation, has her feet firmly on the ground and deals with reality. She made this known when she said that though she has had a few advantages, which many others did not have, she in no way has ever lived in an ivory tower or worn blinders. She says, I know what the murder count is and how many of the victims have been women and children slaughtered in acts of domestic violence. I am cognizant of the volatile tensions in East Port of Spain. I see people affected by mental illness, addiction, and homelessness sleeping on the streets. And if I needed to get to Tobago in a hurry, I could not be certain if or when I would arrive. So she really touched on, you know, everything that we were experiencing.
Even earlier on, she said, having lived in Trinidad and Tobago all my life, I have endured the maddening inefficiencies of the public sector. I too drive with my windows up and doors locked, even in broad daylight. I have lost 2 cars to thieves and waited hours for medical attention for a relative at the Port of Spain General Hospital.
So she knows all that. But then she says, she would like to infect everyone with a bright and positive spirit as we strive to turn our beloved nation in what it ought to have been and still can be. And she said, then gave this piece of advice: get to work on time. Actually do work while you're there and go the extra mile if need be. So those are the words of our president.
To me, that sentence made my day. You know,
because we know, we all know, we are all living through that.
All know. Well, I think we
want to go to the Holy Father's general audience, and at least one person call and tell us what you think of our new president. We'd love to hear from you, but we do want to hear from our Holy Father as well. Let's go to break.
E oggi è il primo giorno di primavera.
Today is the first day of spring.
Buona primavera.
Happy spring.
Ma cosa succede in primavera?
What happens in the spring?
Fioriscono le piante.
The flowers and trees blossom.
Ma io vi farò qualche domanda.
I'm going to ask you all a few questions, but respond, okay?
Un albero o una pianta ammalati.
Does a sick tree or a sick plant blossom well?
Se sono ammalati?
If it's sick?
No.
No.
Un albero, una pianta.
Can a tree or a flower that is not watered, whether by rain or artificially, blossom well?
Ecco, un po' più forte,
there, a little louder. Be courageous.
È un albero e una pianta.
A tree or a plant that has lost its roots.
Ha tolto le radici o che non ha radici.
Or that doesn't have roots.
Può fiorire.
Can it blossom?
Ma senza radici non si può fiorire.
Without roots it can't blossom.
No.
No.
Questo è un messaggio,
There is a lesson in this.
La vita cristiana deve essere una vita.
The Christian life should be a life that blossoms.
Nelle opere di carità, nel
with works of charity and in doing good.
Ma se tu non hai delle radici,
but if you don't have roots,
non potrai fiorire.
You cannot blossom.
E le radici?
And the roots?
Chi è?
Who is it?
Gesù.
It is Jesus.
Se tu non sei
if you are not with
con
Jesus,
Gesù, lì in radice,
rooted in Him, you will not blossom.
Se tu non annaffi la tua vita con la preghiera,
if you don't water your life with prayer and the sacraments,
voi avrete fiori cristiani?
will you have Christian flowers?
No, no.
No.
Perché la preghiera e i sacramenti annaffiano la radice.
Because prayer and the sacraments water the roots and our lives blossom.
Vi auguro che questa primavera
I hope that for all of you this spring
una primavera
is one that blossoms.
Come sarà la Pasqua, fiorita,
like Easter, in bloom.
di buone opere,
in bloom with works, with virtue, with doing good for others.
Capito?
Do you all understand?
Our Holy Father, the one that God has chosen to shepherd his church in this time, always using every moment to teach, and in such a way that everybody can understand,
yes,
you know?
Yes, and
so we have to work on blossoming wherever we are.
Yes. Yes, so maybe we should read the official.
Yeah, Sandee's going to read the Archbishop's official. Well, it's not the Archbishop, yes. He's away this week.
Dear sisters and brothers, on behalf of Archbishop Gordon, I thank all who attended last Monday's Mass to mark the 50th anniversary of Archbishop Panton's Episcopal ordination at the Cathedral of the Immaculate Conception, and welcome the Apostolic Nuncio, His Excellencies Archbishop Fortunatus. I'm not even going to try
his last name, but I'm going to have to tell you, just hold there because we do have a call.
Okay.
So we'll hold on that. Hi, welcome.
Hello, morning.
Morning.
I'd like to say God bless our new president.
Thank God.
At the day of the inauguration, I thought that I experienced when we became independent in
same
1962.
feeling.
That is how I felt when I saw the inauguration ceremony.
Yes.
And also, I think there's a lot of hope for us. That's how I felt as well, a lot of hope, and that we should always speak positives on our nation.
Amen.
Because God is in control, and if all of us get together as Trinbagonians, we would defeat whatever is hovering our land. And God bless our beautiful nation.
Well said. We agree with you on that.
Totally.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you.
Okay, beautiful.
Amidst everything, there's always some hope.
Yes, that's right.
Yes, well, continuing on with the official. Today is Palm Sunday, which is, of course, Sunday coming, which signals the start of Holy Week. On Tuesday, Archbishop Gordon will celebrate the annual Chrism Mass from 5 p.m. at the Cathedral. All are welcome to attend. I encourage the faithful to participate in the Easter Triduum, Holy Thursday, Good Friday, the Easter Vigil on Holy Saturday, and Easter Sunday. I extend sincere greetings to members of the Baptist community as they celebrate Spiritual Baptist Liberation Day on Good Friday. The topic of liberation is a theme at the heart of Holy Week, as is the violence associated with it. Let us be mindful of the words of our new president, that much of the violence we encounter in society has its roots in the way we speak and what we do in our homes. Please continue your customary generosity for the annual collection for the clergy, which will be taken up at our Easter Triduum Masses and services. Father Martin Serchu, Vicar General.
Praise God, beautiful. And Archbishop Jason Gordon, if you're wondering where he is, of course, we're always reminded that he still holds the two jobs, kind of, where he's the administrator for the Diocese of Bridgetown, Barbados. So he has to be kind of straddling the two. So this week he is in Barbados, and he will be celebrating Palm Sunday there. And for those of you who have always known the Chrism Mass to be on a Monday, I know some people are confused. How come it's on a Tuesday this year? But what he's apparently decided to do is stay on in Barbados, celebrate their Palm Sunday Mass, be there for their Chrism Mass, and then come to Trinidad and celebrate the Chrism Mass here in Trinidad. So that's how he's working out the dynamics of his ministry.
Yes.
And
he will be at the cathedral for most of the other services.
Yes, it seems so over the Easter Triduum. And on page 11, just to make note, remember, I think in 2 weeks of the Catholic News, they talked about the recent Catholic Primary School Teachers' Day of Renewal that was Archbishop Jason Gordon was there to help the teachers reflect. So this is one teacher who has written her own reflection on what happened. And, you know, she said that the Archbishop came with a purpose and it was well executed. He did it with precision and poise, delivering his presentation in the most captivating and dynamic manner. Archbishop Gordon was able to maintain the attention of the audience for the entire day. Now, I know that's not always easy, especially after lunch. As anybody, I'm sure you, Sandee, have experienced that when you're giving seminars. And
absolutely. You know, the bigger and the heartier the lunch, the more the facilitator gets scared because it's more louder the snores afterwards. Yes.
But she says that he did that well. And he also reminded us that Catholic education is mainly concerned with formation and emphasized that we are called to be that exceptional teacher. Every time we have a challenging student in our class, we must remember that that child could be the next Archbishop or even Prime Minister. She believes that most of the teachers left the retreat motivated to continue laboring in the vineyard of education.
And
so
I see yes, sorry.
I see the clock ticking
down
there.
The clock is ticking away, but I have to make a little mention because I've spent so much time there.
Yes, of
when
course.
I taught at St. Mary's College. Yes.
Father Anthony Vertai.
Yes, and the mass down by the sea down Gasperi. And for those of us who haven't encountered it, you're missing out.
That's it.
Really, it is so beautiful. And you know,
it's the faithfulness of Father Anthony too, who goes down there religiously every weekend.
It's amazing.
You know, to celebrate Mass for those who live down the islands or who are there on holiday.
And you can get communion, confession, before Mass. Most times, yeah.
So this is one person's, two persons' experience from Camcel. And also, what's interesting is on page 13, right next to that article, is some history about the chapel, which is very, very interesting for those of you who have never heard about it or so. So please, page 13 of the Catholic News.
And it's been happening, is it 50 years ago it started with Father Claude Montes de Oca, Father O'Dwyer and Anthony de Vertai decided to provide Mass regularly. And you know, you just get on a boat, you go down there.
Yes.
And a lot of times I remember when I was at St. Mary's, the boys would do retreats down there. At the house down there, it's the Holy Ghost Father's place, and they would have Mass, and it was always a beautiful experience.
It used to be just on wooden pillars, but then over the years they actually renovated it. So on the back page now, page 24, make Holy Week a memorial, and the question is, Archbishop, what is the significance of Holy Week? And so Archbishop Jason Gordon goes into that. Also remember, this is also reflected on our weekly program, Shepherd's Corner. And what's great is whether the Archbishop is here in Trinidad or he's in Barbados, that we still have Shepherd's Corner on every Thursday night at 8. And so he goes into all the different explanations of Palm Sunday, entering into the week. And then, of course, his key message, which is always important. Enter into the Holy Week as deeply as you can, accepting the invitation to deeper discipleship with Christ. And the action step for all of us, choose a character from the Passion according to St. Mark and journey with this character for the Holy Week. And he gives you a scripture reading, reminds us to be viewing Shepherd's Corner on Trinity TV every Thursday at 8 p.m.
And, you know, just before we go, because it's something that excites me every year at Palm Sunday, if you look on page 15, they show you how to tie the cross.
Out of the palm to make it yourself.
A cross, you know, and I know a lot of little children doing Mass. I know my two little granddaughters keep digging me, can I do it? And I can't do it, you know.
So if you want to do that, and then you keep it, of course, until the next day.
Yeah, for the children. So get your copy of the Catholic News and learn to do this.
All right, so that's it from Sandee and myself on this week's News and Views. God bless you all. Stay tuned to this station, of course, for lots of interesting programs. God bless you, and let's enter into Holy Week praying and being close to Jesus.
All across this land the message flows as it meanders through the lush valleys and plains from the mountains high. TV, that you may have life.
Mr. President,